Well, welcome to our presentation. We're going to discuss cybersecurity awareness and how to build a culture of security from the ground up. Just raise your hand if you can't hear very properly, and we're going to go through some introduction. We want to make this interactive. So interrupt with question, raise your hand. We're going to pace back and forth, answer them, and make it as valuable for everyone as possible. We're very proud of our program here at Finning that is headquartered in Vancouver. And please interrupt and ask as much question as you'd like. Can you move a sec? I am Susie Smabert. I'm the Chief Information Security Officer for Finning. I also oversee privacy and enterprise architecture for the organization. I'm going to start the presentation today with 2 apologies. First one for every woman in this room whom I didn't believe when they said they had baby brains when they were expecting, because I do believe it now. The second is for everybody in the room. I'm getting dumber every day, so if I'm losing my speech, mid-sentences I look confused or I sit down, bear with me, this one out now. So let's keep going. I want to introduce the rest of the team. Nick here.
Nick Hildebrand, Senior Security Analyst with Finning. I helped develop and run this program with the assistance and sponsorship of Susie, and of course the help with Augustine as well.
Yeah, Augustine Del Vento. I am the Director of Change Champions Consulting, a firm that focuses on adoption of technologies and rolling out these kinds of big cultural and behavioral transformations. So I have the pleasure to work with Susie and Nick, and they've always been engineering this in the back end, and I was helping them get it executed. So look forward to sharing my learnings from this experience.
So what we're going to cover today, what's our global security program? We have to translate it in 2 different languages, and some subtleties even in our Spanish language, given some countries like to be told differently in Spanish. What we've done, the best practice, our pitfall, what we've learned, what worked, what didn't work, how we found the best way to engage our workforce so that we can change the culture, and what are our best practice for you so that you can leave here with some practical tips right away. And we'll stay after the presentation outside of the room if you do have future questions so that we can assist you in your endeavor of growing your own cybersecurity practice. Quick snippet about Finning, because I have to. Finning is headquartered in BC. For those that do not know the company, we're the world's largest dealer for Caterpillar products. So all of the big yellow equipment west of Saskatchewan is us, in Latin America as well as UK and Ireland. We're moving back to where we started 85 years ago almost. 14,000 employees, 3 continents. We're a fairly large organization. Anybody does not know Finning in this room? Just one! Oh, there you go! Every big yellow iron is us. So you can't buy cat directly, you have to buy it through dealers. And in Western Canada, it is through Finning. Our goals for the program really is contractor, business. We need to change how people behave. And teaching tricks to employees or a workforce that is used to have wrench as their tools, hammers and screws and big motors, they don't really want to do cybersecurity awareness. They don't really know. They're not knowledge workers on computers. Our goal is to not put all of the pressure on the employees. Big pitfall of everyone is the human's the weakest link. Who like to be told they're the weakest link? Nobody. So if you start that way, you already have 1 strike against your program, because people don't like to be told they're stupid. And we're also working to put the onus on the back-end IT and the cybersecurity, as opposed to putting the responsibility on the end user to keep us secure. It's everybody's responsibility, but we can't expect a mechanic to be as trained as an IT professional in securing an organization. So how do we make it simple? How do we make it relevant? Is really important. To change and get better security through the end user, we want to change the culture to make it as relevant as health and safety. At Finning, we measure ourselves with total recordable loss incident. We don't want our people to get hurt. Everybody, when they plug, they see, now we can't put a wire there because somebody might trip. There's a fire hazard. We are trained, second nature, to identify physical safety risk. We want to take our security awareness to the same level so that it's not something people think about. It's something people live and breathe every day. Our journey, we started in 2015 with not much. It was checklist, checkbox, isolated effort. There was nothing in Latin America, nothing in the UK, nothing at onboarding. It was very much of a shop of no. Security awareness was run with a poster sent once a year with the month of November where all of the industries are doing security awareness. We were very weak. We had no recognition brand internally, no engagement, no ambassador. In 2016 and 17, that's been the pivotal year for us where we've engaged partners to do phishing campaign, to get a strategy. So we've attacked this as a project, not something you run on the side of your desk, but an ongoing initiative that is not once a year in November when it's cybersecurity awareness, our end user hear about it. It's monthly, it's when they're hired, it's in different format, it's gamification, and we're starting to see a cultural shift. We had 200 ambassadors at the end of last year that are mostly business people. They're not IT, but they've self-registered to our program in order to help better it. In 2017 and 18, continuous improvement, reporting and metrics. One of the pitfalls everybody does when they're reporting on their cybersecurity awareness is the bad stuff. 80% of our end users click on the link. 80% of our users are stupid. What if you report 60% of our users are now reporting when you do your fake phishing and saying 60% emailed us, clicked the button and said, you're not going to get me twice. I know this is a phish and I'm not going to respond. That's a positive metrics. It means your culture is changing. How many people attend your events? How many people engage? How many people sign up to be your ambassador and distribute the material? Those are positive. Executives are tired of hearing what everybody does wrong. You still get the wrong, but you report it with the good side by side, and it tells a very different story. Is it too fast in terms of pace? Is my accent annoying? I can do it in French. We're good? We're good? Good.
Go ahead.
Well, hi. It's very important to start anything with a vision. If you embark on a new program or any initiative and you don't have a destination of where you want to go, having a vision is really important. For us, is leveraging different technology, innovate, leverage your global experience, change the behavior at home and at work. And if you focus at home, their good behavior is going to come at work because it's not going to be a compliance check of my company want me to change my password because they said so. It is changing your password will prevent your bank account. You'll be able to shop online. Here's a password vault. We're changing them at home. So what's in it for them has been really important. For it to stick, you need to make it personal.
Before we move the slide, actually, I just want to highlight the business partners on this statement. So really, security in our landscape, great, we want to protect our people, but one of the things that most people overlook is that your business partners are just as part of that as your company is, as everyone else is. So we have to train them as well. Outsourced service desks, your B2B communications. You're just at risk because they're not as secure. So we have to make sure that we can keep them going as well.
Yeah. That's your man.
Yeah, sure. So we'd like to share a few lesson learned. Pretty much each one of these slides will be one of the things that we've learned during this program and that we thought we'd share with you in case you want to start your own. The first one here is addressing your gap. So it has to do with just understanding what's the landscape in your organization. What are the gaps, right? What is it that people need? And obviously the only way to find out is to talk to your team. So whether it's IT teams or operation security teams or just speaking to your users, like do they need a password vault? What are their concerns? Do they understand why a complex password is better than a simple one? Do they fully grasp that? So it's just reaching out to people, understanding their use cases, the business needs, and then creating a program that will be addressing those. And we'll show you in a second how we did that. We basically have a plan for a year ahead. Every year we plan a year ahead with topics that we know we need to address. The other aspect related to that is our own gaps. So we had, when we started, Nick approached me and said, hey, we need to do this. We were doing it in very isolated ways. So we were creating a blog, but after the blog, there was a period of, no communication for quite a while. And so those isolated efforts didn't help because people don't see the consistency, and then they distrust, the source of the message. And so it's seeing your own gaps too as a problem. What do you need in terms of resources? Do you need a communications person to help you? Maybe you can source that from within the organization, or do you need a training team that can help you with creating some videos, right? What are the needs that you need for yourselves? And then, like I said, just look for those partnerships. So whether you have a communications or marketing team that you can partner with, training teams, usually the applications training team may be able to create some cute videos that you could use to convey simple information. So in our case, EHS, which is Environment, Health and Safety, was a key stakeholder group to engage, because they have these vehicles to the ground that we otherwise wouldn't have had, right? They are very they have a very important status in the company, so we could use them as a vehicle to the ground. So create those partnerships and leverage them. I don't know if Nick, you want to add anything to?
Yeah, well, Augustine's actually an example of us addressing our gaps. We had a great security posture. We knew our stuff. Our content was good. We didn't know how to deliver it. We didn't understand behavioral change, and so we brought in an expert in that field. Sometimes the best programs aren't based off the security. It's about what you're trying to deliver and do. And the goal was to make our people smarter and stronger. I can give you content till the cows come home, but I can't get it to the people, and that's where we brought in and partnered with his group so that we can get them to help us deliver it. That's a prime example of that.
Part of what we identified in terms of gaps is people learn differently. So Augustine himself is also a psychologist, so he understands how people retain and address some information through the change management lifecycle. We were doing just posters and some email blast. We found ourselves quickly in the quarantine or clutter folder of all of our workforce, because some people just don't want to read another email or see a poster in their lunchroom. It does not stick. Whereas when we gamified, when we use internal employees to do the video as opposed to what was scanned out of the box from the vendor, they recognize their peers. When we engage them to tell their story with regard to cybersecurity, they could win a prize, it's cheap. It retained the information. So the big gap is often to focus on just one medium. And we've changed that at Finning. And it's not millions of dollars of investment for all of you taking a lot of notes. You won't need to get your budget to $500,000 a year and 20 people doing awareness. You can do a lot more than you think with the resource you have in hand, just by changing how and filling those gaps in terms of how people communicate and retain information.
Good. So the second step that we took is we actually developed a brand for the program. So there's so much communication out there in any company. You will, as soon as you start talking to people, you'll see. There's a overload of information. So how do you stand out? That's the question, right? So whether you call yourself, as our tagline says here, Finning our security, or however you want to name that. The point is, have a brand, try to stick to your, not deviate too much from your company brand, because marketing or communications is not going to be very pleased with that. So work with them to understand what the brand guidelines are and what can you do within that. But try to stick out, because there are probably not a lot of groups doing that. And if you do it, they'll have really good consequences for you, because they'll start seeing you as someone different, right? And as you can appreciate there, our content, as Susie pointed out, is pretty light-hearted and playful. We didn't want to associate it with like risky things or computers. We barely ever use computers or zeros and ones. That's the old school way of thinking about security. I think personally it needs to be something that drives the message home, and that's what our vision, as Susie pointed out, stands for. It needs to work for you at home and at work as well.
Getting that brand will help you when you have IT communication. Let's say this system is going to be down and they're dry and boring, and then this system is back up and you don't know why you received this communication. I'm sure every one of you get this distribution email. Is very important, because once you start getting traction, your team are going to recognize and see some of your key elements. So at Finning, we have the bearded guy. this bearded guy is in almost all of our posters, and the red hair little woman is also on our posters, as well as the tagline on top. So email, posters, video, you'll see these same characters and familiar faces and familiar content that help people associate what they're about to see with cybersecurity and the awareness program. So it's not, what is this? Is it relevant to me or not? And because we've gained some engagement with the branding effort, they want to read our content. We're no longer in the clutter. We're subscribed to, as opposed to being ignored and put in the junk folder.
Yeah, we were worked hard to get that image and that look where people could walk by our posters or see content or a templated email and they know immediately it's us. They don't have to read the tagline, they don't have to understand it. The colors are very similar, the look and feel. That brand is popped now to the point where other groups are coming to us and saying, hey, how did you do that? We want to do that too. And so other areas in the security realm are now adopting to that. They don't have to rebrand themselves. We've given them the ability to scale, and they can piggyback on our hard work. So it's worked out really well.
Yes.
So you said, like with your phishing program and everything, you started off where you had nothing, and then now you've created this brand. Like the transition as you go through these steps, can you identify as you go through them, like what it took to get there and how much effort was step by step? Because like this looks really good, but going from nothing to this,
yes.
How do you do this?
That started exactly like that. We started with our choice of brand and we said, this is it. Look and feel is going to be this. And what you don't see is before this, we worked with some other imagery and some other ways of doing it. A very dark approach was one of them. There's this masked guy and he'd say, you know, we're going to fish you. We didn't like it. Look and feel didn't fit for our business. I don't like the look of it. We want it more playful. Security's always got this dark feel to it, and we don't want that. We want to make sure that people are looking at the positive metrics, or the message as well, and that's what we focused on. So this didn't happen overnight, but we were consistent. And you're going to find that that's the theme throughout this whole presentation is consistency is such key to changing behavior and to adapt these kind of things.
So finding our gaps was really important to see the content we were generating was not read. So why spend time in cycle creating content nobody wants to see and it's not visually appealing? Our workforce and yours is also changing in terms of they need it fast, they need it quick. They don't want to read 20 bullet points to learn about password. They want it visual interface, rememberable. And these helped. We leverage partners, and that's why Augustine is with us here today. With the creative side, we can talk about phishing and cybersecurity until tomorrow. We can't make it pretty. And if we do video, we've tried. It's with our own iPhone shaking, and I'm sweating, and the team doesn't want to do it, and it looks so bad that engaging a third party that can help you make it creative, have the fancy music that you see in those videos that get you engaged, your workforce is going to eat it. But it was baby steps. We didn't get to having all of these posters and the metrics you see there overnight. This is a 1.5 years worth of concerted effort with individual dedicated dollars, budget, milestone, and keep at it. And getting mind share of our communications group, we have 4 at Finning. It cannot be more complex and complicated and painful as dealing with Finning communications group. Translate it and have each of our region want a different brand because they all wanted a different brand. Stay the course and engage partner that have that communication language to help them meet you in the middle. Same way we speak IT and can talk to other IT, we learned we didn't speak communication and marketing very well. So you get the help that speak that language to translate that for you. And that's why Augustine is here, to help us go present and also recognize the value of partnership has brought to this campaign.
And maybe just to add to Susie's comments, as we go through the slides, you'll see more of the steps that we've taken to. Maybe will be the full circle. So maybe let's look at that. So another thing that was important for us is to build these key relationships. So, you know, as I said, we looked at our core values, Finning's core values, and one of them was safety. And so we immediately thought the safety team has these ambassadors that they use to have conversations with people. Sometimes just somebody in an office who takes on what they call these, they call them the toolbox talks, and they will just simply pick up one of those from their SharePoint site and read it and reflect around this. And so we said to them, hey, how about we create one for you? And they loved it because it was content that they didn't need to create. And we loved it because now we were in front of all these people that before we didn't. So I guess our point here is, whether it's the training team, the communications team, the EHS team, your audit team, risk, whoever, who's holding that venue to the ground that you wouldn't have, and how can you invite them over and be part of your program, right? In order to do that, obviously, you want to engage them up front. So you want to tell them your story, what you want to achieve, have them be partners, because if you just, wait until the end and then you make them part, people obviously don't like it as much, right? So it's important to bring them on. So for us, for instance, when we engaged with the communication teams, we presented to them what we're going to do, what we were thinking in terms of branding. We involved them. We let them have their opinions about the colors. So it was important that we were careful about everyone's terms, right? So
Yes.
that was.
This helped us a lot. I see some people in mining in the room. How many of you, just show of hand, start most of your meeting with a safety share? We get a lot more hands in Alberta, so it's all right. But when you start with a safety share, generally is don't trip on highs, don't do any of those things. What we're changing at Finning, through doing the EH&S collaboration, they pick cards out of a deck or out of a SharePoint site to select their safety moment as opposed to coming with one on the spot. We give them cybersecurity moment now. So when they can pick a cybersecurity moment. And what we found is our moments are getting used more and more, not because people don't care about physical safety, but they've heard the same safety moment year after year about hand protection, ear protection. Safety moment from a cybersecurity perspective, give the same safety share, safety culture, but get us mind share too. It's free publicity. So.
It's great to be in those meetings where you walk into one of those EH&S sessions and they're talking your topic and you're sitting there and everyone's engaged and they're talking about, I got identity theft happen to me, and that's when you know it's really paid off, is when you're seeing that engagement. So that's been a great way for us to get the message out.
Another thing we're doing, with regards to the ambassadors, you want to consider is we are now starting to gather. We have them now. We're formalizing the program even more. So we're offering people the possibility to participate and to maybe sign up to receive our content. If you're interested, we'd love to hear from you and maybe leverage your help, right? So an ambassador is basically someone who's keen about cybersecurity. You would be surprised. There's a lot of people that know a lot about these things, right? So we're just tapping on organizational resources that are informal, and we're just saying, 1 hour a week max, but we'll give you some more knowledge to you. Your mandate is to help us promote the program and also give us feedback about how it's working, what can be improved. And we make it light. We don't expect people to show up, 100 hours a week, nor, even close. It's just very light, but it's important to have that breadth. And it's beyond the normal communication channels. Everyone wants to be in the newsletter. What we're saying here is, the newsletter is fine, try to be in there, but if you can find other venues, you'll be more effective.
None of you have unlimited staff. Those ambassadors can get your message out there faster, sooner, to population you normally wouldn't reach in your organization. To attract them, in our case, was just swag, gift cards, and get a Caterpillar backpack once in a while. We're now moving on to Workday badge, so you're formally recognized within the Workday. And we're trying really hard to get our HR to approve a vacation for the Cybersecurity as the Ambassador of the Year. If you are helping, progressing the cause, and making a difference, you'll get a free vacation day per year. That's a big draw to get ambassador to come and join your program. Doesn't cost that much. It's more negotiation and pleading with your HR. But you'd be surprised how much flexibility they are willing to give in order to help a program like this.
I just want to stress the outcome of this slide. We were able to execute this whole program with 0.75 of an FTE. And the reason we could do it is because we relied so heavily on our partnerships, our communication teams, and our internal resources. That led us to it. So this is not a full-time thing that we've done, but it's still executed almost like there's 3 people behind it.
So as Susie pointed out earlier, we didn't just look at one way of communicating information. We were thinking, how do people process information? What's the different learning styles, interests to people? Some are readers, Some don't want to read and they're more keen on looking at a video. Some will click on a newsletter, some won't. So we really just used a bunch of things. So EHS Toolbox Talks, you saw the example there, the phishing campaigns. So we do quarterly phishing campaigns. So, we prepare all the communications for that, but really that's a vendor that runs the campaign itself. It's been very helpful for us to have that, check on how people are reacting to the phish. We have monthly newsletters. We have a tip of the month. So it's a simple little card. You may have seen it on the right-hand side there that says, complex passwords are are better than simple ones, period. Just an idea a month. And so we try to leverage that as much as we can. So we'll put it in our newsletter, we'll send it to communication teams, they put it in their newsletter. We may bring it up in a presentation before somebody starts their meeting. So we'll just, it's content that is there to be used. Videos, we've done a few. A word of caution, I guess, video is don't spend $10,000 to do a video. It's not worth it. Have someone pick up a cell phone and record themselves saying something about, what happened to them. We had a fellow in South America, actually the controller in South America, he was almost a victim of a spear phishing attack, and he was the main character of our video, telling his story, right? And of course that resonates hugely with people because there's somebody that is not an IT person or a security specialist talking about, how he was able to spot that and where was that he saw that was an attempt, right? So the learning comes from your people and not from you, IT person. Webinars, so we do a lot of that. What we do is basically invite either internal or external resources, so either sourcing from people like Nick, who know a lot about something, or we'll bring, the Calgary Police was an example where we invite them to talk about securing your kids. We had Apple folks, right?
Apple. We've had a couple, leverage your vendors for webinars, and also leverage, if anyone sat through Kevin Mitnick's thing this morning, we actually did a couple of things like that in the past as well. A lot of cracking demos, prox card scamming, things like that. That stuff is great. Everyone always leaves, completely white as a ghost, like, oh my God, this is possible. But as long as you add context to it and show them that the risk is quite low in some of it, that stuff resonates really, really highly with individuals.
Yeah, so light content, don't make it complicated. Doesn't have to touch people's personal aspects. So securing your kids was a huge success for us because people are interested in seeing how obviously they prevent things from happening with their families, and promote it in a way that sounds cool, right? Like if you're going to invite people to learn about hacking techniques, it's much more interesting than hearing security 101. Right, so you have to look at how you sell that to your audiences too. That's why partnering with the communication teams may help. So that's what we did. And then face-to-face, we leveraged that too. We created decks with basic information with, we call them the security moments, and that's used to leverage the content that we create. And sorry, one more thing. And then finally, we had the awareness page. That's basically a SharePoint site that we use, a nice-looking SharePoint site where we host all this information. And then we invite people to come there. Every time we deliver content is hosted there, so we can see, who's coming, what the click rates are, and so on. So that is kind of bringing it all together.
This is almost a duplicate slide of just to show what our program is actually doing. So this is more contextual to what we do in our program and what we're doing to line it up. You'll notice that January is missing. We'll discuss that, why we do that. But this is kind of the overrun of that. I don't want to speak that honestly.
So I think, to your question, you're saying, how you did this. For us, the first thing is to sit down and understand our gaps. And the second step was to develop a brand. But the third step was to plan it out. And now we said, okay, so what are we going to say in March? Well, maybe let's talk about passwords, and what about April? Let's talk about phishing. And so we have a theme for each month, and then we tackle it from different angles. And then, well, it looks like a ton of things. There's really, if you look at it, this is any visual, so that would have been a poster, an infographic, or something like that. A tip of the month. We have an EHS toolbox talk. We'll do a phishing campaign every 4 months or so. So we're constantly making sure that people have information. There's a lot of time without information. And you know, in some cases that regional communication teams will pick and choose what they want to use. We'll give them freedom to do that as long as they eventually put it out and use it.
Yeah, there's also other programs that we've augmented around here. So we've got roadshow programs and things like that aren't showing on the roadmap because someone else is actually executing that on our behalf. So there's a lot of other stuff that's helping us out as well. Essence of time, we'll move forward here, Augustine.
Sure.
Metrics. You can't sell a program, get a budget, get people without measuring your success. So for us, this is the snapshot of last year of what happened. We had about 13,000 employees, 6,700 click on our website on a consistent basis. We had a little bit over 1,200 video views. We did try the 10,000. Just don't do it. Just pay for help for editing. Film it on your iPhone as opposed to doing a giant production with cameras and everything. It's not worth $10,000. 4,100 newsletter delivered monthly basis across all of our region. We'll share the slides for people with photo or taking notes. There's nothing confidential in there. We don't want you guys to leverage in your organization to get yourself more equipped to deliver awareness. And we had about 353 registrations to webinar, which we started in the last part of 2017. This is in 2 languages. There's quite a lot of activities, but this is where we are the most proud with the program. We had 175 ambassadors across all of our Finning region. 104 in South America, 52 in 104 in Canada, 52 in Latin America, and 19 in the UK. But that's the number here. 67% of them are business people that have zero relation to IT. They are either supply chain, contract, legal, finance. They work on computers, perhaps, but the majority of them are not sysadmin, they're not in cybersecurity, and they want to see your content. They help deliver it, they put the poster everywhere, and they talk about it in their own meetings, in their own team. And that's where we had the biggest reach in terms of outreach with all of our workforce. Again, we talked metric earlier a little bit. It's important to reflect them from a positive perspective as opposed to just the click rate of the bad phishing. It's difficult to quantify culture change, but similar to EHS, there are some tangible metrics you can use. If you don't have anybody dying, you've got a great year. If nobody loses a limb, your year is getting great or better. If you only have few burns, few scratch, few slipped, it's not so bad. You don't want anybody to get hurt, obviously. But those incidents are less and less dramatic than they would have been if you had no culture of safety. We're doing the same approach with cybersecurity. Less incident to respond to, less need for FTE, because if you don't have 100 spam a week that get clicked on with people sharing the password everywhere and you have to whack-a-mole every hacker coming into your environment, it's less work, less tickets. Use these metrics and tie them into your awareness campaign because it's directly correlable. I can't figure that word right now. It's directly, you can correlate, that's the word. You can correlate your ticket count of dealing with the outset of a phishing with your campaign results. So the better it is, the less tickets you're going to have dealing with those kind of crap. At least I got some laugh with the stupidity of the baby's brain. And recognize your people is very important. We have Night on Town, which is a program to give $100 gift cards for people to take their spouse out for dinner. When they go above and beyond, it's important to say thank you. It's important to recognize those that get involved and go above and beyond. And individuals within Finning have helped prevent serious cybersecurity incident because they noticed that thing that wasn't quite right. And they've alerted us before it got exploited. And it allowed us to spare ourselves headache and time with dealing with cybersecurity incident. So they got the Night on Town, that $100 gift card to take their spouse out for dinner.
Continuous improvement, what we do is we step back once in a while, and Nick was saying, you know, in January is our time to step back and think about what we need to do to improve the program. So some of the things that we realized this year is that we'd like to have more venues to the ground. So our team is now, we've prepared a few slides for them to go to the branches, Finning branches, and just hold some coffee meetings with people and just share some thoughts about cybersecurity awareness. So nothing too formal, lighthearted, and just a visit to the branches, which, by the way, not a lot of people do it from corporate, so people really like it, and I'm sure it's going to be very successful. So we always come back to that. Improve. The other thing is use a behavioral approach. So change doesn't happen overnight. So one of the things we noticed in the onset is we did a phishing campaign. The first one went relatively well. The second one went, people clicked even more than the first one. And that may have been because the fish was a little harder to guess. But for us, the biggest learning is just be patient, because things don't happen overnight. People go through phases. So, they may start to sort of, oh, there's something there that is cybersecurity. There's issues that I didn't know about. Then they start getting interested and they get that desire to learn more. And then they start sinking in, oh, okay, so then this is the reasons why passwords that are complex are better than others, and so on. And then they actually start changing behavior. So ability is when they actually can do things. I may know how to do something, but not necessarily be able to execute it, right? So whoever plays a sport knows that. You may know the rules, but not actually play it. And then finally, the reinforcement. So always, as Susie pointed out, we're always rewarding people. We're saying how great we're doing when we do a phishing campaign and things are well. We're doing better, and that's our stance, right? Always be positive. Want to take this one?
Sure, I'll make it quick because I know we're going to run out of time, and I want to give everybody time for questions. Very verbose, bring it women today. What you don't want to do for yourselves is try to bite it all at once. Do it into chunk. Leverage your broader team. You will have one individual in your team that will be security awareness guru or the lead for it. You can't have 20 leads. Pick one, but make it a goal of all of your cybersecurity team members to provide content and participate. Everybody should go to the branch. Everybody should write an article or a tip of the month. People don't learn the same way. Videos, posters, verbal, face-to-face, leverage a different opportunity to communicate and be in front of your workforce, because some people just don't like to read. Don't assume everybody is on board. We've had quite a few opposers at the start. They saw this as overburden. They didn't quite understand why we were doing it. You need to win them over and make it what's in it for them to be successful. One time is not enough. You can't do that just in November. Keep it consistent, and then they will learn, and you'll see the change in behavior. And lastly, don't get discouraged by the results. As Agustin mentioned, first phishing, we were so proud of ourselves. And then we were so sad of ourselves. And then it gradually got better. Give it time, and don't get discouraged when you have only 6 people in your first lunch and learn. It's going to grow and be a snowball effect and get more and more individuals joining your team or your program. Don't the benefit?
Sure. We as I guess added benefits to what we are seeing is collaboration with other departments. So we now have increased the collaboration. People are looking at us more as a global team. We've seen things. For instance, our information management group is leveraging our brand. So they're seeing more uptake on the initiatives they do. People are happier overall. They want to attend these sessions. They comment on how they are, and you'll see comments in the next slide. And we're seeing this cultural change. So people are actually getting it. As you can see here, we've reached pretty much all fitting locations around the world, and there's some really positive things being said.
We'll send these slides out again.
Yeah. These are the results of our phishing campaigns. You can see here the clicks. As we were saying, they went up, and then now we're seeing them down again. We're also seeing way more notifications to the IT security inbox. So people are actually saying, hey, is this a phish? When maybe it was an employee survey that wasn't properly communicated. So it wasn't anything bad, but they thought of the possibility of being a phish. And we were seeing people finish these trainings, which before would have been unheard of. Ambassadors, as Susie pointed out, and we won an award.
Yes, we did.
Wow.
Very proud of the team. They've done a great job. Any question, everyone?
Thank you. think we're gonna have to roll into the next one. But we'll be around if anyone does have any questions. Just come seek us out, and we'll be happy to answer anything that you have.
We'll be right outside
You bet.
by.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.